I am incredibly excited by our last presentation here. Not only because Bromma has been a very long time customer of Tacton. I think we date back to 2012-ish timeframe. But what they're doing today, given the maturity of their implementation and the kind of the journey that they've been on, they are really starting to leverage the idea of data and analytics to make much more proactive decisions about how they're running their business. That obviously lines up well with what we talked about this morning, but more importantly, it lines up really well with the types of conversations that we're having with you all. If I had to pick one thing, well, probably two things, that we get the most questions about, one is AI, the other one is about analytics. Okay? And so they're going to talk about how they've kind of harnessed that today, some of the best practices obviously associated with that, but how they're using that really as a competitive weapon going forward. So we have Ingemar Lindström and Joakim Heijbel. Take it away, guys.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'm Joakim Heijbel. I'm heading up Digitalization, Information Management and Sustainability in Bromma. And with me, somebody many of you know then.
Yes, I'm Ingemar Lindström. I'm Digital Transformation Lead in Bromma. So I try to make sure that we have modern and efficient digital tools to support our business processes. And CPQ is, of course, one important part of that.
So as you can hear, we are not maybe a company of narrow roles. We like to keep it broad. But Bromma then, what is that? Well, as you all know, Bromma is part of Kalmar. That joke only works for Swedish people. But anyways, we're a company focused on container handling equipment or heavy machinery. For the Bromma side, solely in seaport terminals, container terminals. Kalmar, a little bit broader than that. We started in the 40s sometime, made very peculiar looking machines. Nowadays we make also peculiar looking machines, but maybe slightly more modern. We have roughly that type of portfolio. We are leading in all the segments to some extent at least. We are a listed company listed in Finland. We were part of Cargotec between 2005 to this summer. And now from July we did a demerger. So now we are independently listed as Kalmar, and Bromma is then a sort of a semi-independent division in the broader Kalmar. I'll talk a little bit more about the Bromma side in a minute, but just mentioning first, sustainability is a big thing. For us, we're in a 1.5 degree company. We're aligned with the science-based targets. And why do I tell you that? Well, we're getting to that when we're getting into the juicy stuff around the data and the analytics then. Bromma today. So who are we and what do we do? So we build spreaders. These thingies here, they lift containers. They are attached to cranes. So you cannot have a spreader without the crane. We are focused on those. There are roughly 30 so different models of them. Quite different, you'll see in the next picture. We have delivered by now probably more, so rather 25,000 units worldwide. You'll find us in 99 out of the top 100 ports worldwide. So if you travel out and for some reason decide to go to container terminal, you're going to see these machines up in the air with like a half-meter blue letters spelling out Bromma. So at least if you're living close to Bromma, it's pretty cool and confusing at the same time. We're headquartered in Singapore. We have all our production located in Malaysia, and then we have a global sales and service network in about 40 countries. But we're truly global. If there is a coast, there is a container terminal, and then 99 cases out of 100, there's going to be some Bromma presence there. The machine then. So we are lifting probably the most standardized thing there is in the world. And we do that with a heavily customized machine, with a modular design. And that's unexpected to most. It was still unexpected to me after 10 years, but I'm getting used to it eventually. So why is that then? Well, we attach to crane. A crane is built to last 25 to 30 years, so it's a very bespoke and tailored machine. They are gigantic, by the way. The little spreader is 12 meters long and weighs 12 tons, something like that. The way we latch on to the crane, that's where the customization is, because it's never the same. It's not a couple of modules. It's really, really customized every single time. So that's one big thing, the crane and the head block. Then on top of that, we have a lot of customer-specific requirements. Also those, sometimes we try to be modular, but there is a lot of specifics. A peculiar tiny detail, you see the small ladder there on the spreader. There is no single customer who can have the same ladder. It needs to be a little bit to the right, or a little bit taller, or a little bit smaller. Then we need to operate in all kinds of conditions, climate conditions. We need to be in Arctic sometimes, in desert sometimes, salty, corrosion, stuff like that. Which then we need to lift different weights of containers. Sometimes we lift empty containers, sometimes we lift 4 containers at the same time. So that drives also this customization or modularization. And then we have loads of options and accessories. So we are quite happy to be, we are always closest to the moving container. And in the global logistic flows, you can just, anything you need to know around the container is pretty good to be close. So we have a lot of options and accessories tied to that. We have weighing solutions, we have, vision, camera-based solutions, and tons of safety solutions. So all of that together leads to a highly customized and modular product designed to lift the most standardized thing there is. Then a little bit Bromma and Tacton. So we, despite what we heard in the start today, we think we have been around for quite some time. We came in 2012-ish. That was before my time. We implemented the TC site. We had a quite small implementation of a curated scope of products. We call it Bromma Select. The name still sticks today. It's Bromma Select, but I think we've changed most of the rest of it. It was a really good thing to get into for a company like us, but at the same time in the start we had, with this limited scope, it was actually more complicated to sell a product with Bromma Select than just to sell it without. That we rectified around 2018, so then we decided to go full scope. So we implemented all our products, all the options. So, and since then we don't sell anything, or there is 0 machine sales that hasn't gone through Bromma Select. So this was a really important milestone. Then 2023, now with Ingemar on board, we were ready to do the CPQ upgrade. This was very much intended to be a platform modernization project, but we also, I think we gained a lot of muscle in that effort, and we also integrated them with Salesforce at the same time. And most important, and now going forward, heavy focus from end of last year and into this year is data and analytics. So how can we go from working with the CPQ to also leverage analytics on top of that and learn so much more about what can be achieved and what we do, basically. So we, of course, we do this basic reporting on margins and volumes and stuff like that. But today, we're not least going to tell you a little bit about some of the customized and specific analysis we have been able to do in quite a short time now since we got this on board. Last picture for me before handing over to Ingemar and getting into the the juicy stuff and the details. So this is sort of our quote or opportunity to cache infrastructure or landscape. We run Salesforce for the opportunity management, integrate that into the CPQ. That's, of course, where we do all the heavy lifting. So configuration is a very big thing we have. And I think with that, we have achieved so much better control in both what we sell and how we sell. So to ensure that we have compatibility between the options and the equipment, that we sell the right thing, basically. Then we do the order to cash in SAP. We're pushing through integration all the orders over there. But the big new thing for us is Google Analytics. As a really nice timing in the company, we have been going through this data democratization exercise. So we have implemented a quite substantial Google Analytics platform. And I must say it's been very helpful for us. We've been able to plug into this very smoothly, and now we can start to do analytics and reporting on data from all these systems and also other things.
Yeah, so as we had the Google Cloud Platform with its analytics capabilities already in place, collecting data from Salesforce and SAP and other systems within Kalmar and within Bromma. When we upgraded to Tacton CPQ, then we of course decided we should collect data also from Tacton CPQ and put into this data warehouse, data lake that the company already have in place in Google. So if we just take a quick look at kind of the architecture, how it works, how do we collect the data from Tacton CPQ? So we have running in Google Cloud. Now, Joakim didn't mention that, but we're a Google company generally. So we're not using Microsoft products for Word and Excel and things like that. We use Google for everything, or as much as possible, we use Google. In Google Cloud, then, we have a small little containerized piece of code that runs and asks Tacton CPQ, hey, please give me the latest or the updated objects that has been updated since the last time I asked. And it gets that data and it puts it into a BigQuery database. Now we were thinking, should we trigger that from events within Tacton CPQ, or should we just schedule it? And we decided to schedule it. So every 6th hour, this thing happens. Now we can, with a simple setting inside Google, we can do it every 5th minute or every hour or whatever, but we decided to do it every 6th hour. That is enough for us. And of course, this thing also authenticates towards Tacton CPQ with OAuth so that we stick to all the security guidelines that we need to follow. And then when the data is in BigQuery, we can do then analytics using Google Looker Studio. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, it's a tool that Google offers that can make charts and visualize data in all sort of different ways. And this little sign is for Google Connected Sheets. I will come to that later. But that is also a tool that we use to analyze the data that we have collected from Tacton CPQ. Okay, and what are then the questions we ask ourselves when we have the data? So, which products and options drive the highest margins? Now, an option in our world is like we have a base product, and then you can add options to it. Like you have a Volvo XC90, and then you add a leather seat, so that's an option. It can also be, for example, this Arctic. It can also be need. Like we need to operate our spreader in Arctic condition. That could also be an option, and that will then drive that we need to use different hydraulic fluid or whatever. Like, are there options that are frequently quoted but rarely ordered? So we got a problem there. We quote them, but we never get orders. Something is wrong with pricing, or what can it be? Which EDO requests are the most frequent, and should we maybe standardize them? If they are often recurring, we should probably do that. And are customers requesting the similar customization in specific product lines, and so on. And these kind of things we could analyze also earlier with TC Site, but it was a much more manual process. We had a custom-built plugin that we used in TC Site to extract data out of into Excel sheets that we need to cut and paste into this giant Excel sheet and then analyze that. And it was a totally manual process. But with this, we just get the data. Our BigQuery database just keeps giving us the data without, automatically. But I will come back just in a few minutes to 3 more specific use cases that we use for this in Bromma. And so how do we put this data and the knowledge into the hands of our colleagues? And there are kind of 3 different layers or 3 different ways that we are doing. So first of all, if we have there are certain things that we know that people want to analyze and they want to have dashboards for it, then we do that with Looker Studio. So we put together dashboards for managers or sales managers or whatever it can be. So here are a few charts that shows total order value per region. And by the way, we look at our sales in 2 different dimensions. We have the sold to dimension and we have the end customer. Because we sell our spreaders to crane manufacturers that then sell their crane, including a spreader, to the terminal. Or the terminal buys this crane from the crane manufacturer, but then buy the spreader directly from us. So we want to look at both, how does it look in different regions in these 2 different sales channels, we could say. We call Bromma OEM sales, that is then where this crane manufacturer is the OEM. So we want to look at both end customer sales and sold to sales. And then of course, here are our high runners, the models, or the spreader models we sell a lot. So more standardized reports that we will know that people want to have. And then we have this Google Connected Sheets, which is a very neat thing that Google offers. So it's a way for people to access data in a familiar environment. So Google Connected Sheets actually shows data that is actually stored in the BigQuery database, but it's shown in Connected Sheets, so the Google equivalent to Excel. And there they can do, so we provide them with this data, but we don't know exactly what they want to analyze, so they can filter and they can do their pivot charts and whatever they want to do in Google Connected Sheets. And then, of course, we have the possibility to make custom BigQuery queries directly to the database. So if someone want to know some specific thing about a specific month or whatever it can be that we didn't think of course they can ask us to make a subset of the data in the database. I want to know exactly this, and then of course we can do that. So there are 3 different layers in this data democratization project, where of course the Looker Studio and Connected Sheets is a way to make the data available for our colleagues. And by the way, also Google has as all our users already have Google accounts. They are in Google. We can use the identity and access management built-in functionalities within Google, so that we know what data can be seen by whom and so on. Okay, so let's jump to these 3 more Bromma-specific use cases. So as Joakim mentioned, we are a 1.5 degree company. So we have a classification of our product portfolio that we call the Eco portfolio. So those are products and services that are aligned with the EU taxonomy of sustainable activity. And it's very important that we can do accurate reporting on our eco portfolio, both for the top management, but also for public market disclosures. I mean, we're a listed company at the Helsinki Stock Exchange, and these are how we perform in our eco portfolio sales is a part of our reporting. And that we can do now with this Google Analytics connected to Tacton CPQ. I mean, you can roughly say that we have product models that are eco portfolio or not, but it's not that easy because the specification and the configuration of a spreader can take a non-eco portfolio product and take it to being an eco portfolio. So you can add like an energy efficiency extra option, and then it will become an eco portfolio. So we need also to know the configuration or the specification of the product in order to classify it as an eco portfolio or not. So now we can track our eco portfolio sales on a daily basis. We can do accurate sales forecasts on our eco portfolio. And we can monitor and report our progress towards our targets. And very important, better understand how much of a premium price then that our customers are willing to pay for this eco portfolio. So we can analyze looking at what prices we offer and so on. And if we can tweak that and see how we can more easily get our eco portfolio then out in the market.
And I can maybe say that this is one of those things that makes me, when I put on my sustainability hat, it makes me so happy, because in the previous world, this was all handmade in Excel. Quality was so, and our ability to sort of do any further analysis was zero. So having this type of detail and the dynamics and the flexibility, it just gives us so much more precision. So happy thing.
Yeah. Next use case, so tracking the rollout of a 6th generation control system. So as you can imagine, the control system is a very important part of our products. And we recently launched then our 6th generation control system. And for the product managers, now we have the control system as an example, but when we roll out new options or new products, it's very important for the product managers to understand, is it a successful rollout, and are we quoting this new fancy control system or not? And when we quote it, do we get orders? And in what volumes is it ordered, and so on. So our product manager for the control system, now he has like a dashboard that he can see that, okay, now we're quoting it, we're getting orders, and if there is some specific market where they don't quote it, he can talk to the sales guys in that region and like trying to understand why and so on. And this is also something that would be close to impossible. Well, not impossible, but it would mean a lot of manual work to do in our older setup with TC Site and Excel-based exports. Like then we would have to sit daily and just update that Excel. And so we can monitor the quoting frequency of any options, but in this case a new option that we specifically want to track. And we can track then conversion rates across different regions and different customer segments and so on, to understand better the rollout. And also analyze if the new control system is correctly priced. So is it if there are the control system on a specific product model that is not selling as well as another, maybe there's an issue with the price or something. And then also an important part for the product manager, like identify where the first batches are being delivered, because then he can like have a special eye on those orders and those customers that received the first batches of the new control system and kind of follow up, do they have any problems with these and so on.
And here I can let you in on a small secret that actually our own leadership team is not aware of. The software on the control system is R&D is almost ready. So a good thing here is also, so all the standard big models are covered, but a good thing for us is also to be able to track, are we selling any of the quirky low volume models? Because then we need to get R&D to work really fast to catch up. So it's also helping us in the R&D work here to ensure that we get the right stuff ready in time.
Okay, third use case. I added a little pilot there because we are in a pilot phase on this one because we have some tweaks we need to do to roll it out full scale. So certain components have a long lead time from our suppliers. And today the sourcing team, they don't know really what's in the pipe. They get the information that, hey, we got this order, now you need to buy the stuff that you need from our suppliers, basically. And in worst case, of course, the lead times from our suppliers will be the limiting factor for our lead time to our customers, which is really bad. But with starting to analyze what options is in the pipeline and look together to with the probability data that we get from the opportunity pipeline in Salesforce, we can give them much more accurate figures on what's going to be ordered, and they can then like proactively buy things from our supplier. So with this new setup, we can generate reports on long lead time components that we have in the sales pipeline. And we can use forecasts then to proactively order long lead time items. And then in some cases shorten the delivery lead times for our customers. And last but not least, we improve the supplier relationship. I mean, our relationship with our suppliers, because if we can be more proactively and tell to them what we need to buy, we don't need to pick up the phone and yell and, being problematic, and then we have a better relationship with our supplier. Now, why it says pilot here is that, in many cases, we are lucky that an option has a one-to-one relationship with these components that have a long lead time item. But in CPQ, we don't go down to a bolt and nut level when it comes to the bill of materials when the machine is being built. So in some cases, we don't have detailed information enough when we have the bill of materials in CPQ. So there are a few cases where we need to enrich our configuration models to include that, to make the bill of materials a little bit deeper, if I use that word, for certain components. But we will overcome that, and then we will roll out this on a bigger scale. So those were three, apart from the more general questions that I put up on the slide in the beginning, that everyone should do if they have a CPQ system. These were three Bromma specific use cases that we are able to do now that would be very hard, or at least be a lot of work to do before in the TC site and Excel based reporting. So in summary, Tacton CPQ and the Google Cloud platform is allowing us to take whole new steps in analytics, and we are getting much better access to data, information about pricing and margins and the configurations and volumes and so on. We are able to do this with a very low effort. And I want to be a bit bold and say that for those of you here in the room that have a Tacton CPQ implementation live and have been using it live for some time, and you don't do this, collect information from Tacton CPQ, start doing it, because the investment to get the technology in piece to get the information out is so low, so the risk is minimum, and the business value you can get out from start analyzing this data is so big. So you just should do it, and it's not complicated. Anything to add, Joakim?
No, but I think you've said it all, and particularly the last point here. We have this limited effort, but we can also be really fast. And any type of ad hoc analysis we can now do in a much more efficient or in a completely different way than before. So can just agree, if you haven't done it, do it. It really shifts the game completely. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
For us.
Thank you. And any questions from?
Excellent. So as usual, I've got a couple.
Absolutely.
So as you look at so what you've done here is very much looks like you've created this great foundation that you can build upon. So where do you go next with all of this?
No, but I think now when the ball is rolling, so to say, it's just now it's really with the business then to figure out what are those use cases that can give us that differentiation and allow us to take those next steps. So it's really about finding the use cases because the technology is there and all the integrations, all the connections to the other data. So now I think it's purely a business question to execute and to get the value out of there.
What I will also like to add is since we also have data from other data sources, of course, a next step that we already have started doing, but anyways, to kind of cross that data from CPQ with data from SAP and so on and draw conclusions when we have data from other data sources as well in the same kind of data warehouse.
Right.
And maybe as a small side note, since we talked about AI in the beginning here, so we're in our broader roles, we're fiddling with some AI implementations right now, and I learned a new buzzword yesterday that you should chat with your data, and we got really inspired and engaged with that. So we're going to start chatting with the data, I hope, here during the spring, and let's see where that takes us.
Excellent. And so you had the one slide where you had the insights, so they were the questions that were being asked and that type of thing. And this gets to your use case thing, I'm sure. But if you look at the people who are mining this data, are these sales ops people? Are they business analysts? Are they data scientists? Like who's in there kind of, like mining for those insights?
So what maybe wasn't crystal clear, but in the beginning with our slightly broad roles, we're quite few people doing a lot. So right now it's too few people doing the mining, and it's Ingemar is a big miner.
Get your hat.
And I think the key thing, but we're getting so much more interest in the business now. Our finance department has started to just jump at this and ask a million questions. Our product management guys, they're the same thing, and the R&D. Well, we have one of the examples here, and it just opens their eyes to that. Okay, there is things in here, because it used to be a pretty closed box, and quite frankly, nobody thought about the possibilities. And now, when we start planting those seeds, we start to get the requests, and I think for us being more on the Digi data side, it's really when we start to get those business requests. That's when it becomes engaging.
Yeah, it's almost like you show them the vision, and it's like, well, if you can answer that, could you also answer this? And that's when the brainstorming really happens around this, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. What questions do you all have for these guys? There we go, right in the middle.
First, thank you for a really inspiring presentation. You presented a result where you were measuring what happened, right? Are you also measuring what did not happen and why?
Yeah,
Do you want to
in terms of, I mean, if we quote and we do not get the order, that is something not happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is questions that we can start to look at and like comparing how much discount did we give and what price did we offer and yeah, do those type of analysis. Now, maybe we have not started doing that as much as we can, but we definitely have the data in place so that we can do it.
I can say today we do the win-loss analysis based on the sales force information. What we don't do yet is anything similar on the one level more into the details of what we have in the CPQ system. So really, this is another good area to take the next step.
And I was also thinking about during the configuration process,
Yeah.
if you have options that late in the process has been deselected, and understand why.
Yeah.
There are also things that did not really happen, but it's very good to know why it did not happen, right?
Yeah.
Excellent
I agree.
ideas.
Yeah, excellent idea. And
You have more.
and also, I mean, when we do this data extraction, we get all the objects that are in Tacton CPQ. We get the accounts, the opportunities, the solutions, the configured products, the bill of materials in the configured products, also the parameters. And the parameters in this context is the questions and the answers to those questions,
yes,
and whether they were answered or not, committed in Tacton lingo. Yeah. So we know that are there something that did not happen is a question that was not answered, or at least not actively answered by the user. So we could look at, like after a year, are there drop-downs in questions in our configurator that has never been committed? They seem to be uninterested, not so interesting questions, so we can just throw them out of the configurator because no one bothers to answer them. So to simplify the UI, that could be also one thing that we could do.
And the last question then. You asked the data lake now questions, and have you asked you asked the data lake to ask you questions? Have you understood this? Have you understood this?
Coming in the spring.
That's when we start chatting with the data, I guess.
That's the chat that comes in the spring, probably then. So,
Thank you, guys.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, also thank for a very good presentation. The selection of a Google platform is not often we see something like that. Can you elaborate a little bit about that? And can you also elaborate a little bit about the query language, since it seems to be quite effective until you get the chat version in the spring?
I can start and you continue. The selection was not in our hands. It was a corporate decision. It started with the Office suite, you can say. So we went, was that some 5 years ago maybe? We left the Microsoft suite and went into the Google workspace or whatever it was called at that time. And that one thing led to the other. Then the whole data democratization where we started, because we have more traditional data warehouses with ClickSense reporting on top of that, but that is more centrally managed on an information management level. The neat and pretty thing in the Google environment is that there we have the same data sets. We even have more data now, but it's much more available to a so much broader group of people in the company. And for us, it's a little bit a lottery win that it enables us to do so much more. Yeah. So we cannot take credit for the selection, but we're utilizing it like crazy.
Yeah.
But then,
so the question about the query language. So once you have the data in BigQuery, building this Looker Studio reports, that is you don't need a programmer for that. That is more like configuring what is it, a bar chart or is it a pie chart that you want to build and like drag and drop what kind of dimensions you want to do, and so on. And the data that we give to users in connected sheets, that is very similar to Excel, how to do pivot charts and stuff. If you want to do like specific SQL queries to the database, that is SQL query language. I guess BigQuery has a small like dialect, but it's the same like that you have in any other SQL database. So it's a standard query language that BigQuery is using. So it's very similar to MySQL or other SQL databases.
Okay, how do you collect the information of non-existing options? Because there's not way kind of report them standard way.
No, I mean the closest to that is that we collect information about ETOs. So when we get a request on an engineer to order, typically that is entered by the salesperson or the sales engineer into the user interface with free text. Or actually you have a drop down, it says do you want this kilowatt or this kilowatt, and it says other. And you select other, and then there's a free text, and they enter I want 1,000,000 kilowatts. And then we know that, okay, someone has, but that of course we need to analyze more on manually. But I mean, with ML and those AI things, maybe we could just throw that all those strings of texts where people have described what they want in a LLM model, and we can ask it what are the most frequently asked ETOs. We don't do that now, but it's maybe a possibility in the future. So that is what is closest to analyzing what options we don't have today.
So you said you pulled data out of SAP and CPQ and CRM. What would you say is the uniqueness about the data points you get out of CPQ compared to other enterprise systems?
Yeah, one example is we do all our discounting and pricing and everything in CPQ, so we don't also have price lists when it comes to equipment. For spare parts we do, but not for equipment. We don't have any prices or anything in SAP. So of course, when we send over the order from Tacton to SAP, we send along the sales price so that we can make a correct invoice. But when it comes to like how much discount did we give and what price list was used, and also like the master data of the price list, so to say, they are in CPQ. So that is one example.
And then all the options on a sales object level then, so that only resides in CPQ, and having the history, the track and trace of all the sales of the different options, and as you touched on, we also have the little bit to the ETO process, the salesperson defined options, the ones we don't have. So all the option information, all the pricing information, all the margin calculations, all of that. So it's a pretty important set of data for us.
Another thing is order amendments. So our order amendment process is handled within CPQ. So if after the order has been placed and the customer can happen that we initiate an order amendment also, but most often it's the customer. They need to change something in the order. We handle that process within CPQ, so we have a custom object that we call an order amendment, and that we also have in our BigQuery database, so we can analyze like what customers make the most order amendments, or like are there specific products that causes more order amendments than other products or other regions, or specific sales individuals maybe even. So that is also one example of data that we only have from or in CPQ.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very motivating. It's not often that I see a company that is really learning from their own sales process, and by getting all the data, you're able to, and you're already doing that. For instance, with the question I saw about looking into what kind of ETO requests you get. So that is really bringing you forward in is our sales process effective, and can we make it more effective? One of the questions that pops to mind for me is that, for instance, for the eco product, did you do any analysis on that? That, for instance, if you would, are you selling more eco products as an eco product, or are you selling more products that are not eco products, but have the same eco classification. Because if you have that data, you can see, okay, how can we make sure that we in the future sell more in a more eco way by selecting that kind of sales method.
Yeah, I would say we haven't gotten that far yet. We're in the big process of sort of churning out all the eco versions of the products in the portfolio. So it's still quite narrow. We have sort of 3 sub product lines, and it's one of those we are almost 100% eco, and the other 2 we are unfortunately at about 0% right now. So I think we will do that a lot in the future. We haven't gotten there yet. Now it's just R&D busy work, but definitely for the future.
Highly informative. Thank you. I learned today also that Bromma was part of Kalmar, so that was that was
Exactly.
nice. 2 questions. One is regarding. Understood that you enriched the data you had from Tacton CPQ, the configuration data, with lower levels on the BOM in order to do, I understood, forecasting in a better sense. Maybe I got it right, but you enriched the data somehow to get further into the analytics. Did you ever in that process evaluate whether you could trigger the manufacturing BOM directly from the sales configuration versus working on enriching the data afterwards?
Do you want to go first?
No, right now we want to use CPQ to give accurate forecast on these long lead time components to be able to order them based on our sales forecast. Now we have a little problem there that we need to overcome, that we are not deep enough in our bill of material in CPQ. But our plan is to, since these long lead time components, there are a limited number of those, so we figure that the most easiest way for us to do that is to enrich the BOM in Tacton CPQ so that we get that information also, but we do that specifically for those cases. That's how we plan to do it right now. But we don't have any plans to explode kind of our sales bill of material into a manufacturing bill of material already in CPQ.
Maybe adding to that, so a thing in our whole design setup is that we have roughly 4 weeks of project-specific engineering for every single order we get. So when we have done the configuration, figured out the options, figuring out the specs, we still produce a complete set of drawings for that particular machine. It would be fantastic, of course, to automate more and more of that. We are pretty far from it today, I would say, but over time.
And you do know that Tacton has specific products for exactly that.
We have. I should probably not talk too much. We've done a small project on that. It ended. It was a little bit too complicated. We were probably too far from it in the data setup we have today. But
the second question is a very quick one. I hope the answer is very quick also. It's following up on the positive surprise that you actually a Google company. So we've heard from elsewhere that there are some concerns. It might be a hoax, so it's up to you to tell us if it's a hoax or not. That having analytics from CRM, from CPQ systems, from ERP systems, but is particular from the first 2 where you could have personal related data, it could have an issue with Google because of GDPR and the servers being in the US, etc. Is that just a hoax or something that you have actually considered?
I would think it is. It's not so much. We're the whole GDPR legislation and all the other data legislations as well are quite carefully managed. I think on our side, we haven't looked so much, but on the corporate level, it's a strong focus. I don't think there is any major. We use Google instances within the EU. In our setup, it's good for EU maybe less good for other parts of the world, but it seems to still be. I think we have the strongest legislations, at least for the moment, in the EU. So it seems to be working quite well. So as far as we know, we don't have any problems, but
Thank you.
Yes. Quick question in regards to the analytics. Do you have plans to have feedback loops back to the configurator with your analytics capabilities so that your sales personnel can take more proactive decisions for what to offer to minimize lead time, for example?
Potentially, I mean, we don't do that right now, but definitely it's potential for the future.
Generally, I think we're still in this exploration phase, so we're finding the attractive use cases and we're just taking them one by one. This, we haven't gotten to yet, and I don't even see it before me instantly, but it's definitely one of those we can attack further down the road, I think.
I see that. We have started to collect the data in a structured way, and we have it in BigQuery, and then only the future will tell what we can do more with that data. And we've talked a lot about Google today, but I'm sure you can do pretty much exactly the same thing with Amazon or Microsoft or whatever. It's just that we are using Google.
All righty. Hey, I want to thank Ingemar, Joakim. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you.